Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the Season 3 SpoilerCast for The Bear. Yeah, that's right. We're going, Dragon, it's interesting because I would think that there's more crossover with our audience in this show than I actually think there is. I don't know. I don't necessarily think this show is like a big hit with the people that watch us. But regardless, we're here to talk about it. We're here to break it down. It is a pretty big pop culture moment, at least as far as like the TV of the year is concerned. Highly anticipated season. We have Code Geass in the comments saying how unbearable is this show. So yeah, we're gonna go through every episode. Probably, ideally, not spend more than a couple minutes an episode. Not like literally 2 minutes, but ideally, we won't spend that much time per episode. But first, we have to cue things up. We already talked about this in movie memoirs, so we'll kind of be quick on it. But Dragon, give us your thesis statement on season 3.
So, I think with season 3, especially after digesting the meal that was The Bear season 3, The Bear really parallels Ted Lasso in a number of ways. And I've always had that impression of the show. It has like an unconventional kind of Ted Lasso vibe, but not verbatim, but just kind of like, I don't know, there's an optimism, there's like a band of misfits kind of vibe, and there's it's a story with a shelf life, much like Ted Lasso.
Uh-huh.
So The Bear parallels Ted Lasso in a number of ways. In that, like season 1, very much the direct sell of what the whole show is going to be, and I think when you look at the series as a whole, season 1 holds up the best because that's very much here's what you're getting into, here's your characters, we're kind of telling a kind of a story with an ending. We kind of go from point one to point A to point B there, and there was set up for more should we tell it. So it's 1 very strong, much like Ted Lasso. Season 2, much like Ted Lasso, has some big standout episodes. It's overall it's still really good. I mean, I don't think it's as narratively as perfected as the season 1 of The Bear, but 2 has some extraordinary episodes like Fishes and Forks. And but again, overall, it's like 1 handicap to 2, which unfortunately 3 is kind of saddled with. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's 1 dig against 2 that 3 is kind of stuck with, and so that's where we get the 3 here again with the Ted Lasso comparison. The main reason I bring it up, season 3 had a lot of hype. Ted Lasso more so because that was the last season. And because of that, because there was so much hype and people going back to The Bear and like, hey, it's coming, and it's like a yearly thing, and like, it's like there's no like infinite delays like Stranger Things, like it's actually happening. It's just falling short in a few spots, and because of how strong narratively the past 2 seasons were. It's overall the season's still solid, but it's just not amazing, which the other 2 very much were. And the main reason for that is, well, it's twofold. We have an incomplete season with the whole to be continued factor, and it's more of Carmi's love life, which I know we were all desperate to see. We all want to see just sad Carmi. That's what we want. Like hashtag sad Carmi. Give me more of that for season 3. We want to see Carmi can do all these amazing chefy things. What's the one thing he can't do? He can't operate a phone. It's the one thing he can't do. It's his chef kryptonite. Great with his hands, but only with food, knives, and all sorts of cooking.
I mean, that kind of speaks in season 2 too, with the whole bridge thing. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's just that's the one handicap of this series. Is relationship Carmi. Okay, we don't want relationship Carmi. At the very least, it's like, look, good for him. We don't need to drag it out. Okay, we don't need to have like that Romeo and Juliet scene in the freezer. We don't need that. And here we are.
So yeah, I actually think between the 2 of us, I'm maybe even a little more critical of this season than you are.
Get out, you.
Well, I'm just saying, like, when it comes to the hype for this show, I was very much the one selling it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think this season is a little bit of a mess. It certainly has its moments. It certainly has a couple standout episodes. For me, I think episodes 3 and episode 7 in particular really shined. But at the same time, there wasn't anything that rose to the occasion of being like true like genre defining TV like Forks. And to hold that expectation up for the Bear every season, honestly, Dragon, it might have been unfair if this show wasn't so. And I'm going to get really hostile here really quick, so I apologize. This show is up its own ass as far as like how like artistic and meaningful it is, and that's a big problem I had with season 3. And with season 3, I really think that yeah, there's a to be continued, but I mean, it's I don't think that's an excuse to literally not wrap up any plot point. And it's not like these plot points are even like that captivating. So, Dragon, I will say this much. If season 4 doesn't improve and keeps going down this hole, and it's not the last season, I think I'm probably out, honestly. And I never thought I'd say that after the first 2 seasons. Yeah, man, I mean, I don't know, the cast work is there. It's beautifully shot, but I think a lot of things bring the season down. I love the facts as supporting characters, but I think they're way too all over this season. I feel like I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff that we could get into, a lot of pretentiousness. Speaking of pretension, Dragon, let's talk about episode 1 tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So yeah, Dragon, I will admit, as soon as I realized
it does define the season though in an accurate way, wouldn't you say? It just kind of does.
It does, but
it
not
sets
in a
the tone.
way.
No, it's remarkably accurate though. It kind of has it because there's like potential there, but a lot of it's
interesting. Like the approach that they take is interesting. But at the end of the day, I found myself checking my watch, which is something that I would do like that kind of became a little bit of a running theme as I was watching through these episodes, was kind of
like a half-hour show, so that's not good.
No, it's really not. It's really not. Yeah. And I don't know, man. Let's give some credit where credit's due here, Dragon. And I think you're probably gonna agree with me here. I think this season, the one thing that they really did develop was the Joel McHale character, right?
Yes.
And so on that level, I think having this episode is kind of like a primer for Carmi's mental state and how Joel McHale is kind of omnipresent in it. And then going into the finale with Joel McHale probably having the
we do have a name on
that I actually liked.
We do have a name on him now, by the way. It's Chef David.
No, it's Joel McHale.
Oh, come on.
It's Joel McHale. Dragon, I'm sorry.
See, this is what they get for not giving the guy a name.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they get.
If not for Will Poulter, we would not have a name for this guy. Otherwise, you're only getting him from subtitles, like he says, Chef David. Like you hear his name twice, and we took 3 seasons to get there.
Oh man.
Anyway, so here's the
But speaking of Will Poulter, though, I do want to acknowledge he's also a really good presence in the season, and it actually, I was actually really glad to see that he was kind of elevated from guest star to like reoccurring character.
Well, reoccurring in flashback until the end, but yeah.
But yeah, Dragon. Needless to say, the whole structure of this episode, it's very ambitious, but it's also off, which is, as you said, kind of like an omen of the season as a whole.
So here's the thing. So it's an iffy start to season 3. We uncaged the bear at the start, which was a good move. I love the idea of the symbolism of that. The whole series starts on his dream of the bear in the cage. So we have Carmi in the freezer, so he's freed, which is the big cliffhanger of 2. So that's a really good way to open the season in that regard. I appreciate the editing and getting into the Carm's headspace, which is something that we've kind of done a little bit through the show. So I respect the premise of here's how we want to open the season. Mm-hmm. The nonlinear flashback. Here's the thing: the nonlinear flashback structure I do like from an editing standpoint. I do like it kind of because it feels like an actual guy reevaluating life and it's almost like a light flashing through his eyes sort of thing, where it's not going to be linear. So that is interesting. I appreciate what they're doing there, but you're right though. it goes on too long, and it's the fact that the episode pretty like. I'm not gonna say the episode doesn't have dialogue because they have like the flashes or like little tidbits of dialogue, but it's not really, it's not like it's basically Carmy in the present day. We don't say a single word,
Right.
and again, we don't technically need to because we're getting everything we need from his headspace. The problem is that can come across really pretentious if it's like the whole episode is like, okay, I see they're going for like a really fancy editing episode where it's like if it goes on that long,
Yeah,
it's like a whole.
I mean, to me, it almost kind of felt like a fancy version of a previously on.
Exactly. So that's the thing. A lot of this is stuff we know. Here's what we didn't know. Here's the value that we got from. Here's why we needed. At least in premise, this thing really could have worked. And what I love about this is that okay, what we didn't know, what we were kind of led through, is that Karm got the death call while he was at work, and this is going to be very important for the next episode. He got the death call while he was at work, and it's implied. They don't show this, and I even like that it's implied. Here's where we get the whole Joel McHale chef kind of aspect here with Chef David. It's implied that his breakdown was caused by this call.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they don't say that, but it's implied. And, that really, so that's, the end of your montage, versus like, honestly, that to me should have been the end of the montage, but then we see like, okay, he was at the funeral, but he was like angsty at the funeral, so he wasn't there. He was in the car. Observing.
Right,
See, that's where they lost me because they had that moment is such a great idea that okay, he potentially had a breakdown because he got the death call and he's at work and he opted not to go and there's gonna be a lot of guilt there.
Generally speaking, I feel like all the Mikey stuff this season, like Mikey is definitely the rock of the show. I feel like he's literally involved in all of the show's best moments for the most part.
Well, Bernthal's the
which
secret
is
weapon.
kind of trippy to think about when you consider that his death is the inciting incident of the whole show.
Yeah, he's the secret sauce, man. He's the secret formula. Anyway, but yeah, so you see what I'm saying though? It feels like I love our big reveal within all this non-linear stuff. It just feels like we just see a lot of what we've been flashing to in the previous season up to that point, and then we just linger on it way too much. It feels like if they could have had a shorter episode, this should have been it. If they wanted to make the whole episode,
for sure, it could have been 20 minutes.
Then we have like some cute reveals, like okay, he served Sid at that restaurant, but they never met each other. That's fine. That's okay. We had
a wild David Zayas appears.
Yeah, we get a whole episode with him.
Yeah. I did like that setup. I was like, oh, hey, there's a face I know.
See, these are the aspects that I think, for example, like you look at Kidding.
We get like a 2-second jump scare with John Mulaney.
We do. He's there. I love that we kind of wasted John Mulaney in this episode. He's just there. He's there for montage. I really
wanted to see at least one more episode with Stevie in it, Dragon. He was such a we will talk it. Let's just say this, folks. We are going to talk about probably definitively the best episode of this show, which happens to be a Christmas episode.
Yeah.
On the season premiere of Christmas in July tomorrow. So yeah, folks, if you want to keep up with that conversation, honestly, Dragon, is it fair to say you could probably watch that episode and still get something out of it without watching the rest of the show?
I mean, I think so, because it's very much like it's the earliest flashback we really have.
Yeah. So if y'all want to get in on that, even if you haven't watched the rest of the show, just go to season 2, watch the episode called Fishes. It's got some really great Jamie Lee Curtis performance. Bob Odenkirk is in the mix. And frankly, John Mulaney kind of steals the show. All right. Anyways.
So I mean, I really appreciate like the moments where we're kind of getting some like some little Easter eggs and like kind of near misses of like with our destiny aligning itself. Like that's nice. But again, it's a lot of padding getting there, and the padding does come across as pretentious. Like okay, the show got a little high on its own praise there. Now here's another thing. Here's one other thing. This is going to be again like on one hand, I appreciate this. On the other hand, it's like it's reminding me of like the show. What's going to be the show's kryptonite. So we have the apology call fake out, which that's a pretty getting away with it once. Like he calls, he thinks he's making the apology call, but he's apologizing to Richie. Look, nice that he's apologizing to Richie. That's nice. But when you then think about it, like, okay, so we're teasing up the apology. He just
I genuinely don't understand. I genuinely don't even know his mind space for why he would apologize to Richie but not Claire.
He yelled at Richie in the freezer, but it's still like, why did he?
No, I know why he's apologizing to Richie. I'm just saying, like, why, like, wouldn't Claire be higher up on his priorities? I get that he's nervous about it. Ooh, but guess what? We're going to spend a whole season, as you implied, with him being nervous to make that phone call. That's literally going to be this man's, like, one of this man's main plot points.
Let me put it to you this way. The whole dread over the apology call, the absolute most any sane person can delay and build that up is 3 episodes.
Right, yeah. And it's literally the whole season. It's not even resolved at the end of the season.
It doesn't even happen. So nothing. You get nothing, sir. Good day, sir. Just put him in half of a hat. Put him in half of a chef's hat. And just that's what they're building to for season 4. It's gonna have the full Gene Wilder connect in season 4. That's where we're gonna have him. Just Carmen's just gonna unload. It's just gonna, you get nothing. All right, anyway.
All right, we got a little disagreement about the show Shameless, and I didn't even know Jeremy Allen White was in that show.
Wait, really? You didn't know? Yeah, he's unrecognizable.
Because he doesn't look exactly like Gene Wilder?
Well, no, because he doesn't have the Wilder. His hair is all shaved down. Like, he doesn't have the Wilder hair at all.
Okay. Right. It is the hair that does it with the Wilder look. It really is.
It's that and the blue eyes. He has very hypnotic blue eyes like Gene Wilder. So those are the 2 things.
And this is what I like to see in the comments section. People agreeing to disagree and being civil about it. Love to see that. But isn't freaking, I'm trying to think, Cameron Monaghan, isn't he on that show?
Yes, he is.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And William H. Macy.
Well, I know William H. Macy, but yeah.
Also, guess what?
What?
Joe Cusack's also on that show.
Okay, I like Joe Cusack. That's not exactly a selling point, though.
But isn't it nice that she's there?
It is.
All right.
You're going into, like, sales pitch mode now. Okay, is that... I'd say we pretty much set our piece with episode 1.
I have one word, Tiki.
Notes for it. Okay.
Next.
All right. Next. Yeah, so I honestly think with this episode, it's like this episode and episode 3 go together really well.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon, remind me, this is the episode that ends with the Marcus and Carmi conversation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what I really like too. Yeah, I like too.
I really love that moment. The whole take us there, Bear. Like that moment to me is one of like the defining actual good moments of the season for me.
Yeah.
And everything about Marcus. Dragon, I have some theories about Marcus we'll get to a little later on, but I think he's going to be pretty pivotal to the conflict in season 4. But we'll get there. So yeah, I think this is a solid start. I honestly think that they could have made episodes 1 through 3. They could have like put it into 2 episodes and included the flashback stuff throughout episodes 2 and 3. What is episodes 2 and 3 now? Just because I kind of feel like, again, with episode 1, artistic, but there's a lack of urgency to it, and it's kind of like, when we are at the start of the season, it would be nice to actually progress some stuff, and this is episode 3 does do that. Let's see. I do really like starting the season with the list, Dragon. I feel like that was a pretty decent framing device to kind of
not just the list, the non-negotiables.
Yes, the non-negotiables. Yes, I think the non-negotiables thing is kind of a good sort of framing device to get into Carmi's headspace. The Michellin star is going to be our big plot point. I will say, Dragon, I definitely don't think the whole getting the Michellin star thing is as compelling of a plot point as the whole like fine dining clashing with the with the sandwich shop angle of season 1, or the opening the restaurant plot of season 2. But it is a logical next step. I think the problem is just that the actual review itself, again, it's one of those that I feel like we're going to kind of come back to this a lot in this podcast, Dragon, where good plot point on paper. It kind of pisses me off that it doesn't get resolved by the end of the season. I mean, like, we linger on whether or not he's going to get a good review the whole season, and then it's literally our cliffhanger. Like, stuff like that pisses me off when shows deliberately are like, they linger on a question, and then it's like, okay, this is it. We're about to answer the question next season. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Tiki, reading it like we're jumping ahead, but I think it's read as like we do get an answer, but we're unsure what the consequences to the answer are. It's a little vague, but it's like pretty much in the negative.
Right.
So I mean, you're right. It's on a cliffhanger of like, where do we go from here? Like, really, that's it? You're just gonna say, and didn't go well. Okay, well, the focus on two solid episode. I love that it's practically a bottle episode. That's what I love about it. I love that it's a stationary, practically a stationary shot too. Like we're in like a little entryway of the kitchen area, like over the table and everything. We have the non-negotiables. You know, Carmy is the whole point of last episode. Carmy's reflecting on how he got here to this point, and you know he's basically in pursuit of the Michelin star, which as I completely agree with what you said, it is the logical step. Yeah, it's not as compelling as the first two, but again, it tracks. It's something that would happen, especially for Carmy. But he's trying to make rules, not goals, to make this happen. He's basically trying to, and again, he's trying to press forward. He's trying to go on. He's trying to learn from his mistakes, but again, he knows he can't undo those mistakes, hence the whole apology thing, which we'll get into for better or for worse. But
they literally name a whole episode after it, Dragon. Isn't that fun?
They do. Anyway, so he's obsessing. Again, that whole night he's like obsessing over all the mistakes that one night, which has kind of led to this list. And overall, his non-negotiables, they're reasonable, except for the whole new dishes every night idea. That's crazy, and of course that drives everyone. That brings chaos into the kitchen.
And you know what, Dragon? I honestly kind of feel like that's another sort of issue I have with this season, is that realistically, I honestly don't even buy that Carmy would be that gung-ho about something that financially ambitious and be that reckless about it. I don't know. It's a leap for me.
I can't stand how the crumble cookies, how they change they change it like every week, let alone every day.
Right.
Seriously, I once had this amazing. I'm just going to do a brief tangent. Once, Crumble Cookie, they have these really great expensive cookies. They're like the size of donuts almost, and they're in a box, and it's like they have like 5 or 6 of them, so you can get like essentially half a dozen each. If you chose it each week. The problem is, like, I once had this amazing Oreo cookie version of it. Like, it's a fancy Oreo cookie, like a bear version of an Oreo cookie. Like Marcus could have made this. It was delicious. It was wonderful. Problem, only you only had it cling to the memory because you're gonna have to wait until like forever until it goes back in the rotation. They sell it again.
You know what? I actually have a similar experience with a mint chocolate chip cookie that I got at, of all places, the Disney World fucking Christmas party. I'm never going to be able to get it again, Dragon.
Nope.
Never.
Yep.
I don't even think they still have those at the Christmas party, and I would never go to that Christmas party again. So, yeah.
Anyway. So everyone's on Carmy's case about the non-negotiables. They're really calling them, and then they're.
But again, I really like how Marcus is the one person who really respects the idea behind it.
Well, sure. So before we get to Marcus obviously is going to be very pivotal. Everyone's calling him out about Claire. I love that Richie.
Which I will say, with the Claire thing, it does kind of bother me that this show just insists that Claire is this amazing person that needs to be put on a pedestal. I don't know.
No, it's by comparison. That's why she's put on the. She's with Carmy, who's like a psychological wreck, and it's like, oh man, she helps him heal. Isn't that nice?
No, I don't even buy that. I feel like the way that Richie and the facts talk about her, it's like that she's like literally like a goddess.
Okay, admittedly, even in the Christmas episode, the fact that we introduced her, like, oh man, Claire is great, Carm. Go after Claire.
Right, yeah.
It is a little, like we were hyping her up ever since the beginning. So I don't know, maybe. Well, I'm not saying Claire's like the big staple. Like, watch the show for Claire. I'm not saying it's like
No, quite the opposite.
I'm not saying it's like a Claire Danes sort of situation here, right? Just regardless. So I do like that Richie kind of like the moment Claire gets brought up, he sees the sensitivity there because Richie is not giving him an inch with these non-negotiables. One of the funny Richie runners this between episodes 2 and 3. Richie, he's not giving an inch with the non-negotiables. He's
I think this is probably Richie's strongest episode, and then I feel like the more the season goes on, the more he kind of just fades into the background, which I think is a shame.
Yeah, we did give him again 2 really good ones though.
Yeah,
but yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying after his episode last season, it really felt like he had been elevated to like main character status, and this season he very much feels like he's back in the supporting character role, like even more so than season 1, honestly.
Yeah, I guess I think you're probably right. Anyway, so Carm's trying to. I like the whole subtractive thing. Like, we had this flashback to Chef David where he's like tells him to subtract, and that's kind of like Carmy's thinking a lot with the non-negotiables here, where we're going to subtract the chaos and the obstacles and the stress to improve life.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that in this episode. The reason I bring it up is in this episode we are subtracting initially, where again we're locked on like that one shot for the whole episode. In our bottle episode 4, until Marcus shows up. And then we're adding to the frame. Like, he's trying to subtract, and everyone else getting on his case keeps adding to the frame. Like, the Fack brothers are in there, and like, Teddy Fack, he keeps dropping like the like the fluorescent light bulb. Well, this sort of like it's just. But again, it's like we're adding to the frame when he's trying to subtract.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's really great. Anyway, so Marcus in the lawsuit, which I jokingly blame Rohit Dar for killing Marcus's mom. So
I remember actually when I saw this, that did come to my mind. I was like, man, Dragon seemed very cautiously optimistic about the mother.
So, maybe it was a good call. Maybe it was a nice call. Hey, she woke up from the coma. Okay, like Rohit Dar was like, coma, unplug them. Just unplug the comas.
Right.
But yeah. So Rohit got his way. Marcus is an orphan now.
Oh, God.
So Marcus lost his mother, which is very sad. But I love it's this pivotal event. It sets up and tees things up a bit for the season here. At least what it should have teed things up a little bit.
I still think it does. I just don't think that the follow through is that great.
Yeah. I love that we have this great one-on-one conversation between them, and it was such a great idea to see that in the first episode we saw Carmy get the death call, and he wasn't there, and we have the again, that was glass half empty. Now we're seeing glass half full, where Marcus is actually again the optimist in there. Like, basically, Marcus is like if we turn the football players into bakers, bakers or chefs or cooks. Marcus belongs in Ted Lasso. He would have been a Ted Lasso recruit.
Right.
But that's the thing, because he's the optimistic character here, where he's very much like, I'm kind of glad I was here when it happened, because I was doing something I loved and something that she would have approved of. And so he's kind of looking at it in the positive.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really nice, and I think really necessary. And I think basically Marcus, if used properly, especially next season, Marcus could be the guiding light for Carmy's trying to be. In a sense, Carmy wants to process things and kind of heal the way Marcus has. That's what he wants, but he doesn't quite know it yet. But that's ultimately the point that he needs to get to in terms of dealing with his brother's death.
All right, next up.
Yes, get us there, Bear.
Okay. All right, episode 3, Doors. I think this was another really standout episode. I love the editing. Honestly, Dragon, you might not agree with this comparison because I know it's not your cup of tea, but this episode almost kind of felt like Uncut Gems, like in the way that it dealt with anxiety and that kind of pressure cooker atmosphere.
Well, they've always done that in this show, though.
Right. But I feel like this episode kind of like encapsulates it, though. I will say the one hang up I have with this episode, Dragon, I do not buy that Neil Fack would fuck up that hard
Okay, you have to admit it is hilarious though.
Dragon, it's funny, but it's funny in the way that Chumley on Pawn Stars is funny. Like
Come on.
Neil Pack is a
Don't
character.
compare him to Pawn Stars. Come on.
Look, I'm comparing him to Pawn Stars because Pawn Stars, much like the Bear, it's like they take their comic relief character and he goes from like kind of like an oddball outlier of the group into just pure dum dum. And I don't really like. I think that Fact was always more than that in the first two seasons. I don't know. We'll probably
It
have
was
to
a
agree to
cute
disagree on
joke. It was like he just told him very specifically what to do. He thought it was like one of those fancy, like like Mike, like the micro gastronomy kind of place.
Dragon, why would he present the soup and not serve it?
Tiki, there are that's what I'm saying. There are weird fancy restaurants that do like the weird, like they give you like a puff of air and say, "There's your entree," and they walk off. I think that's what he thought was happening there. Carmy's the fancy chef. He said, "Go there, pour it, and just tell him what it is," and that's all he told him.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We'll agree to disagree.
They're these stupid, trendy places. I don't know.
So I think this is Richie's standout episode for the season. I love the shot with Carmy and Richie on either side of the kitchen. That's one of the most striking shots of the season for me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Natalie because she's got a bigger role this season than she had in seasons 1 and 2. I do like her character kind of like having to navigate, essentially kind of having to be the mother figure, especially like, you know, the liaison between the Facts and Richie and Carmy, and she's kind of like the peacekeeper of the group when she's about to go into motherhood herself and kind of having to hold it together while still being very stressed out, but still having to kind of keep it together for the group. I don't know. I thought that her character got a pretty significant upgrade this season.
Yeah. No, she she did. And again, I do like that we kind of literalized the whole maternal thing, which we saw in 2 very hilariously with she's very motherly towards Neil.
Uh-huh.
I always love that. I wish we had a little bit more of that here. We had a tiny little bit of it there. And like, hey, Neil was there. He was like the only one that eventually showed up, once the baby was born. So, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we have like the battle over the just to kind of highlight some of the chaos and then get back to Natalie here. So there's a battle over the non-negotiables, and I love like Richie's making his own non-negotiables. See, I got to admit, this show especially, we're seeing so much Ben Grimm potential in Evan Moss Bacharach here.
Oh, I think he's perfect casting for that. Honestly, the only thing that I regret about that casting is that we're not going to see his actual face.
Well, I mean,
but
we'll
the New Yorker attitude, though, that's going to be there in spades.
Well, we might see him in the Origin.
No, obviously we'll see him in the Origin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, honestly, look, the less of his face we see, the better, because he's already been in the MCU. We don't need.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Okay, I don't blame him for not showing him. All right, we don't want to confuse the thing. All right, we're already skating on thin ice with Blade. All right, which hasn't even been made yet.
It might not ever get made.
I know, that's the sad part. Make up your mind. Come on.
Right.
We're going to get Blade in the new... We're probably going to get... This is a guess, mind you. We're probably going to get Blade in the new Deadpool movie before we get Blade in the actual movie.
I don't know about that. I don't think I want to put him in the new Deadpool movie.
No, not Mahershala Ali's Blade. I'm talking like Wesley Snipes' Blade.
Oh, dear God. Okay.
I mean, it's possible. I'd never think of that. No, seriously, this is a possibility because, again, we might have a gag, if not Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds.
I don't want to just turn my Deadpool 2 anticipation into another multiverse of madness Easter egg.
Well, look, I'm not saying we're going to do it everyone, but I'm saying literally because Ryan Reynolds played Deadpool in Blade 3.
Got it. Yeah.
Either Blade or that literally the Hannibal King character, which was the prototype for Deadpool in
Pretty
that
much,
movie, as a variant of Deadpool, which would be hilarious and a double Marvel reference.
That would be hilarious if that actual character was that would be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's possible.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. So the point being, so we have the non-negotiables thing. It's just really funny. He's making an excellent point there. Like the substitutions for people with food allergies, you got to do that.
Okay, can I just say, as someone who has my diet has actively suffered in life because of food allergies, Dragon. Food allergies are like a big part of my of my dietary existence. And can I just say, it warms my fucking heart to see Richie going to bat for people with dietary restrictions like that.
Yeah, I know.
That was just a very, very nice thing to see represented in the show.
That's what I'm saying. This episode is Richie's shining moment because he's doing stuff that. And again, even though I find it funnier, I just love that he has Neil's back. Even though Neil screwed up, he has like, "Hey, I got it. You can take some do that. You don't do that again."
I just love the idea that Carmi was about to just go like J.K. Simmons on Whiplash on his ass.
It's hilarious. What I'm saying is the fact that again, I love it's a Lou Costello gag. I don't know. It's really funny. Right. Anyway, so to get to the finale, but also again, the pressure is on because Carm's burning through money with all these specialty items and like going for the top tier ingredients, and especially the experimentation and the adding of like new menu items like on the daily. Uncle Jimmy is not a happy camper. I think he's justifiably frustrated, and of course he has to take this out on Natalie. And yeah, I love how Uncle Jimmy's very nice to Natalie though. After he does like say like, what is he doing? Okay, do you have to go? Because it's going to be a long drive.
I will say Cicero is one of the big highlights of the season for me. I think he really popped this season.
I've always loved Oliver Platt, and this show is a love letter to the man. Dear God, they did him so right in this. I'm so happy. Seriously, if you just told me Oliver Platt was in this show, I would have been, okay, I'm so sold on this. Odenkirk already. Like, Odenkirk's an obvious. When you told me Oliver Platt of all people, Yeah,
but Odenkirk was just kind of like a cameo thing. Like, Oliver Platt's the real deal here. He's one of the fixtures of the show.
You probably overheard it, but you do realize most likely why they put Oliver Platt in this show, right?
No, I don't think so. Why?
Because he's the food critic and chef.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah.
Like the food critic, the one that sends Favreau on the journey. He's the guy.
Right.
I can't prove it, but I would like to think that's the main reason why he has such a big part in this.
But I like how every season he's like, because in season 1 he honestly could have been basically like a gangster type character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But every season is kind of like sanded away his layers to where he's basically a grandpa to these characters, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So also, Carm and Sid, they're working really well in tandem, at least towards the beginning of this here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So I love the whole Orwellian butter gag too. That's really funny. It's just like, why do we need Orwellian butter? You need dystopian butter. Wait, what are you talking about? Orwell? It's like, no, it's like Wisconsin or someplace.
Right.
We have like the piñata. You're breaking the dream weave. Don't mess with the dream weave.
I do like the specialty items and stuff like that. The special event. Again, one of the things that Richie is like really excelling at is that kind of customer service, like attention to detail sort of thing.
He's doing the deep dish move. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh man! Oh God, the deep dish! Oh Jesus Christ!
Again, man, Forks is still like everyone's always going to highlight Fishes, and Fishes is great, but still,
no, man, people love Forks too. Dragon, it's a 1-2 punch. People acknowledge it as a 1-2 punch.
I love it. Speaking of which, I love we had a nod to it here. We saw the fork on the ground, which again, I pointed this out. The fork symbolism for Michael is always like the ghost. It's the haunt, the other haunt, not those haunts, but this is the other haunt. Michael.
What do you think of that runner, by the way? I honestly thought it kind of got a little old by the end of the season.
Look, yes, but do we need to bring it back? No, but did we just for John Cena? That was great. For John Cena,
Cena, it was great. The problem I had was that they kept drawing it out. Yeah. It made perfect sense for the John Cena cameo.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. So the whole turnaround gag too, like, hey, we're gonna show you the back of the kitchen, so Carmi can't yell at everyone, and we can swap out the tables, so
right?
We can fit more people in there, get more money. Oh, by the way, this is a fun observation I never realized until they brought it up in this episode. Which, by the way, is also the highlight. Again, editing's flawless in Doors. Man, Doors has perfect editing.
It's like one of the few episodes this season where I was definitely engaged the whole way and wasn't checking the runtime.
Yeah. Okay. So no name. There, I believe forgot until they brought up. But yeah, there is no name on the front of this restaurant, which is a kind of a dumb idea. Why isn't there a name on the restaurant?
Is, isn't there just the logo of the
Yeah,
bear itself?
there's just what we're seeing now. There's just a wooden bear sign.
Well, that's powerful branding for you, though.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It's
It's
like
kind
the
of like
bear.
the Batman '89 bat symbol.
No, yes, but what I'm saying, Tiki, is that that's not like a big sign outside. That's like when you walk through like the doors, you see the bear. It's like no one like driving from a distance, no one's gonna know where it is.
Right,
That's the
true.
problem. That's the it's like if you wanted like a big bear logo, sure, go the full 89, but there's no big bear. There's the little bear.
God. So Bear and the Big Blue House and Little Bear, we're having like a Nick Jr. crossover now.
Yes.
All right. Anyways,
All right. Anyway, so we end on Sid's discontent with the dream. So that's again big thing for her by the end of the season. You know, she's seeing her dreams literally stomped on.
mhm.
Bum, bum, bum.
All right. Episode 4, Violet. So yeah, this is where we kind of start to get into the wheel spinning territory a little bit.
I agree.
I mean, look, I love Marcus. I love Marcus's eye for pastries. And I do think that the whole Violet thing, it's a nice message with his mother, right?
Yeah.
We don't need it to be the whole like focus of the episode.
Yeah, I mean,
And I know it's
basically,
not the focus of the episode, but it's just like I just feel like this whole episode is kind of just like killing time almost.
I think in retrospect, so there's the whole point of this episode is like we kind of spin our wheels and kind of a nice calm down after episode 3, and then plot point
Right.
at the very end. But the plot point at the very end is like too big to put in episode 4. We should probably put it the halfway point, the episode later.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Tribunes reviewed the restaurant.
Which, you know what? I do think that some of my I think it was a little forced how the guy like knew her.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it's just kind of like because what was their remind me what their acquaintance even was. Like, you know, he stops her at the at the train or whatever, but remind me like how do they even know each other? I legitimately forget.
I gotta be honest, I'm a little lost on that one. I'm not sure. Well, it's basically
Yeah, I don't necessarily think
wait,
it's well explained when it's a big plot point.
well, Natalie. I think Natalie mentioned that she knew someone, someone. Oh wait, no, wasn't it that they got a call that Natalie got a call that a photographer's coming.
Yeah.
And that basically implies someone's been there. I think that's what it is. I don't know if there's like this whole thing about like someone knew like the actual reviewer. I don't think that's it.
All right, fair enough.
I just think she just contacted the like, photographers coming, which means they've been reviewed, and you know they informed Carmi, and Sid is just going to put 2 and 2 together. What's going on?
No. I'm sorry. What I'm talking about is the guy who basically tips Sid off to the fact that the restaurant very likely was already reviewed. That's what I'm talking about. How does that guy know Sid? The guy who eventually makes her the job offer, Drake.
Oh, that guy. Well, yeah, that guy works. I'm pretty sure that guy works for Chef Terry.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. How does he know Sid?
Well, no, I'm about to tell you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
In the if memory serves, in the I think it's the first season after she kind of quits for a bit, she's going around to the other kitchens, or I'm sorry. After season 1 or 2, in one of those seasons, she goes around. She's like, I think it's 2. I forget what I said about 1, because 2, when she's going around, she's thinking about, she wants to be Carmi's business partner. Now she's mended fences with him, and in doing so, they keep saying, "Oh, make sure you trust your business partner." And remember, because the whole Claire thing that season, the whole thing, Claire is kind of waning on the partnership. He's from like her going around to the other chef friends. So
okay,
that's how.
Okay, got it.
So it is explained that's where that guy comes from.
Look, I just think for being such a pivotal character in the season, like not character, but the whole job offer thing is a big plot point. And honestly, I'm just gonna say it now. As big of a fan as Io Ebadiri as I am, I certainly don't blame her as an actress for this. But I think Sid was probably the most annoying character in the whole season for me, honestly.
I think
And I'll tell you
Sid.
why. It's just because like if we're annoyed by Carmi and his whole, like not calling Claire thing, just look at the document, Sid. Like Dragon, how much we fucking drag that out, and the fact that we have no resolution on it at all by the end of the season. I don't know, man. They really did her dirty this season. I mean, it literally just feels like all of her screen time this season is like, well, I don't know if I'm being treated right by Carmi, and then her trying to have the nerve to talk to Carmi, and then the whole like yes, chef, it's not a good time, like trying to calm Carmi down, that sort of thing. It's just every scene that she's in just felt repetitive, Dragon.
I'll tell you what it feels like. It feels like, if I'm not mistaken, she directed some episodes this season.
She directed the Tina one.
Yeah, she's directed that one. I think what happened was like it's like, okay, we don't want to. She's directing, so we don't want to. I think her performance or her character got shortchanged, so she would have time to direct an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not really a great idea. But you're right though. It's the same exact problem. Is that it's the whole thing like, why couldn't she just sign or look at it? If they bring up this document, once sign
The fact
sign
that she
the
can't
thing,
even
one-
look, look, I get it. I do get it, because when I was in college, I would have a really hard time checking my grades out of sheer anxiety, Dragon. So I get that struggle. I get not wanting to look at something that would potentially put you in a stressed out headspace. I do get it. But my God, this is a TV show that we're writing, and we spend way too much time on it.
Yeah. Her and her father's like, I love her father, but just it's just like same conversation.
I honestly think she's a little bit too cynical about her father, honestly. I don't know.
Okay, here's something though. Nice moment of the episode. Again, it's a very thin episode. One, Richie dealing with Frank.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I do like the whole the mentality of like, God damn it, I wish that I could hate him, but he's too nice of a guy.
That's what I'm saying. So Richie continues that really nice dynamic with his daughter, and because it's like Frank, like the new guy, is proposed, and he feels guilty about asking for the hand in marriage before running it by Richie, because he's the girl's father. But again, he's not he's not Tiffany's father, so he doesn't need to tell him diddly squat.
Right.
But again, it's just such a super nice guy, and you're right. It's this thing like, how can I hate this guy? Okay, episode 5.
All right, children. And I'm going to be honest with you, Dragon. Out of all the episodes this season, this one's kind of what I'm blanking on. So can you sort of take the lead on this one?
Well, okay, for starters, this is the John Cena episode.
Okay, there we go. I mean, that's kind of probably the big standout moment.
Okay, look,
for as much as I like John Cena, and I do think that his cameo works, let's just call it out that this season has way too many celebrity cameos just in general.
Well, I mean, hold on a second. Not counting all the chefs, if they not counting.
Okay, all the chefs, Drag. We can't just ignore all the chefs.
We can look. Well, I'm saying we will talk. Look, I'm just saying collectively they're one cameo. They don't count individually. All right, they don't.
I don't know about that.
They don't count
whatever.
individually. It's all a chef cameo. Not counting that.
They're John not Cena. A monolith, Dragon. It's not like Carmi's talking to like a 5-headed chef.
Okay. Aside from John Cena, who are our special guest stars?
I mean, there's not a lot that I can think, but again, I don't know, Dragon.
Come on, man. That's what I'm saying. I don't really think there's. I think it's just him, and then there's the Hydra of chefs.
And I guess David Zayas.
There you go, David Zayas. Okay, so there's 2. Okay, you got 2, and then we have a Hydra. That's not too many.
The Hydra chef.
It's a Hydra chef.
Please,
okay, unless you're engrossed in the culinary world, you don't know who any of those people are.
Right.
Okay, because they're all like a majority of them are actual chefs. That doesn't count. They're like Guy Fieri.
Yeah, they're not even like Food Network chefs.
That's what I'm saying. There are a number of fancy Guy Fieris.
That is not even accurate, because Guy Fieri is like, well, no, I guess Guy Fieri, yeah, he does technically.
He's a people chef, man. That doesn't count.
It's so weird to even like associate Guy Fieri with actually like cooking now, because diners drive in and dives. Just geeking out about.
I went to a diner today, and Guy Fieri was all over the place.
Did you really?
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, anyway, so the point being, this episode, I think, picks up the pace a little bit more than 4 does. We're all scrambling for the photo shoot. They're for the Tribune.
Mm.
They're hoping to, kind of tip, they're hoping to get the photographer to tell them, what's going on. Like, hey, what was the review like? Won't tip his hand. We have, we get help from the Fack brothers, which includes the introduction of Sammy Fack, who is John
Honestly,
Cena.
Dragon, I think maybe what my issue is that Cena is he's like an A-lister. So as fun as it is to see him, it's almost a little distracting, if that makes sense.
I don't know. A-lister is a little generous, don't you think?
No, not really. Honestly, I feel like he's pretty much on the like he's not like the most popular movie person in the world, but I think he's up there.
All right. Either way, yeah. So I don't know. I found you're right. There is a bit of like, oh my God, that's John Cena. That's Peacemaker. There he is. Look at him.
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't. I love that it's kind of a fun splash of like, hey, this is the potential of all these other mythical Fact characters that we've set up. We have Neil, we have Teddy, and now we have Sammy, and there's a lady Fact.
Okay, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because that's honestly part of like my dread of the Dragon. We have impending celebrity cameos with the Facts.
That's what I'm saying. I kind of like that.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like I don't want especially with how big of a screen time boost the Facts got from this season between the other 2 seasons. I really don't want this show to just turn into all right, which wacky guest star Fact character is going to show up this week?
Yeah, the spinoff's going to be waxing with the Facts.
No, legitimately, they could do a spinoff with the Fact family. Let's face it, that could absolutely be viable.
It'll be nothing but the Facts. That's what the show's going to be.
I don't give a Fact.
Or Fact you.
Yes, that's the winner.
Anyway, but yeah, so we have this guy where the Teddy Fack took his SD card, so basically he wants him to. I don't know if it's like the actual password for the SD card, it's just like a password they've assigned. It's this whole he's haunting him until he gives in. It's cute, it's siblingy. I don't know, I kind of like it. Mm-hmm. No, but I was like, Cena's got good chemistry there. Sid has no idea who this guy is, and the whole thing of okay, you want a live duck? You want he's like, oh, he's like this guy is he's his heart's there, but $1 million heart nickel head. Okay, so let's see. It's a big thing. Chef Terry's restaurant is closing, and this is set up, I think, potentially for the stakes of for the Bear, particularly for season 4. This is where we're kind of going into, based on the end of this season. The death of the restaurant, which again, from the beginning of the Bear, I always kind of looked at it as again, there's a shelf life here. The birth of a restaurant to the death of a restaurant. What do we say about that?
Which is very timely, considering that the Bear came out kind of in the height of when everyone was going. I don't think it was 2020. I think it was 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Right? The first.
The show was in 2022.
Oh, okay. So we were all kind of slowly getting out of the pandemic mindset, but
yeah, that's it. Well, they were still we mentioned in the first season. We do mention the whole alley. The pandemic did almost annihilate them, which is why they were selling drugs in the alley at one time.
Drake, let's face it, the pandemic kind of annihilated table service restaurants in general, and I could still see the effects it's having on that.
So that's what I'm saying. So this is very much they're writing with that in mind, the year prior. So in 2021 is when, So. Yeah. Anyway, so
you're thinking that eventually, season 4 or maybe season 5, if we get to a season 5, the last season is going to be the death of the restaurant. You don't think the restaurant is going to be a permanent thing?
I think it's going to be a thing where, honestly, just based on how the season goes, and what we kind of tee up towards the end of the season, I think where we're going is season 4 is going to be how we responded to death via the death of the restaurant. It's going to be everyone's going their separate ways, kind of like Muppets Take Manhattan. And they're going to take what they've learned from each other, with them.
Honestly, knowing the needle drops that the show tends to pull, it wouldn't even surprise me if they use saying goodbye.
But seriously, though, I'm just saying there's a big thing here of what a great chef does is that they take the experiences from all the restaurants they've worked at. So I think that's kind of where we're going. They're all going to go their separate ways, but they're going to be enriched. So basically, the bear will live on in the separate legacies of all these chefs.
I can see that. I can see that.
That's also where I see. Again, I think they're probably going to do a Barry thing where again we're going to end it. We're going to end at 4, and if they're smart, they won't. I'm saying to be continued suggest part 2 is, and it's going to be really disingenuous. Like we've split 3 and 4 into 2, and then we're going to do another one after.
No, that's what I'm saying. That would just feel off.
Yeah, it's going to feel really off if they do beyond 4 now. So 4, they've kind of deadlocked it, which I didn't see coming. That's the big thing with the whole cliffhangers. The cliffhangers suggest, oh wow, we're ending at 4, which suggests some Barry potential, which is why I'm optimistic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, let's see. So again, so Chef Terry's restaurant is closing down. Richie's devastated by this because that's what kind of inspired him and kind of turned him into Suit Richie. Let's see let's talk about the Dead Moms Club.
I mean, I do like that we don't linger on the Marcus asking Sid out thing. I like that we just kind of like, all right, it happened, but we're gonna move past it. I feel like in the real world, that's kind of like the healthy way to deal with those situations, and I like that we were here.
Yeah, but it's just a really sweet little scene between the two of them. There's chemistry there, even if it's not going to the next stage. They're well paired together. These two. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Wonderful scene. Speaking of Marcus, so we brought in the computer. And the computer, one of my favorite things on the rewatch of this season is knowing what we know about Uncle Jimmy by the end of this season. Uncle Jimmy financially is he's in financial straits. Okay, the market's not doing well. He's basically losing all of his cash, and because of that, he's brought in the computer. The computer, essentially, kind of a guy from the neighborhood, like a softball coach or something, friend of the family's. He's hired him. Basically, he's like a master accountant, like a forensic accountant of sorts. Basically, telling where they can cut costs and save money for the investment. So it's the fact that Uncle Jimmy, again, on his heels, again, he's just coming up with a reason. I'm going to make you guys more efficient. Where reality is like, I need to try and desperately recoup any money I can from this investment because I'm losing money daily, which adds a great deal of stress. And I think it's just a great retroactive element to add to the season with why Jimmy's kind of like there so often, why he's kind of freaking out about all the cost when he's never been that way before.
So the plot point with the computer specifically pointing out Marcus as an expendable cost, I definitely think that that's going to be a main source of tension in season 4. Specifically because, well, Marcus is probably not in on the whole, like the staff being kind of a mess, which I get the sense is probably a part of what the review is mentioning. And I think that I think Carmi's struggle in season 4 is going to be how to deal with a staff that has gotten actually criticized with how they're handling things while still not turning into just Joel McHale. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, that's his worst nightmares. He's going to become Chef David.
Exactly. So in that respect, I think it's really interesting that Marcus is very much, he's the heart of the whole group, and that's pretty undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, again, it's that whole kind of like the expense thing. And so I'm very interested to see how that turns out.
Yeah, exactly. Carmi being faced with the choice of do you ask the people like Marcus to kind of retain the restaurant and basically retain your glory and legacy and everything, or do you let it all go?
Right.
But yeah, I love Natalie. Natalie's this wonderful moment where she tells the computer look, like I've known you since you coached softball. My husband Pete, you're very nice to my husband Pete, but I will murder you if you go after Marcus. But I love that though. I love that she, with a smile on her face, that she says it again. That's the maternal side of her, man. It's like, I love that little Marcus. I love there's that sweet scene in the previous episode where she's on the couch nursing pregnancy cramps and stuff, and he's really nice to her. And again, she's really tender with him because he lost his mother. She's an expecting mother. This is all really nicely connected with the whole maternal thing with Natalie. That's always been a really strong aspect of the show. So they're
Mhm.
hitting all those beats really well. Anyway, so let's see. Again, as I said, just Uncle Jimmy's confession. Ultimately, here's a question actually. I think we doubled down on Uncle Jimmy's scene, maybe more than we needed to. Where later on we have a really great scene between him and Carmen, but we kind of not even foreshadow, we kind of set it up here in maybe a clunky way where Jimmy is telling Sid about, like, hey, just sign the thing, and then after that he's like, maybe I could have done more to save Michael, to help the family and save Michael, which is a really good scene, but it feels like we did it twice when we only should have done it once.
Yeah, I kind of feel that.
Because he has it. He basically he says it with Sid, and then he says it with Carmi. It's a lot more impactful when he says it with Carmi.
Uh-huh.
Because what does Sid care ultimately?
That's true. That's very true. Maybe it's kind of the whole thing where it's like you run by an important speech with someone who isn't really affected by it.
I know that's the thing. That makes
Yeah.
sense, and that tracks. But by the same token, it's like, man, we're kind of hurting for screen time this season, and
Exactly.
Okay, so the episode ends with Carm finds Mike's baby pictures. Not much of an ending.
Uh-huh.
It's about it. Okay, big standout. Napkins.
Oh yeah. Oh
Got
yeah.
so many tears. We're gonna need napkins for all these tears. The
All
Punisher's gonna
right.
make us cry.
Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so yeah, this is definitely the standout episode of the season. I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I think it's like a solid 8 out of 10. I'm not saying there's anything bad with it. I'm just saying that, like, compared to, like, it's not game changing television like Forks was, Dragon, or Fissions.
No.
So, but it is really good, and honestly, my favorite element of it is probably David Zayas. I really felt that. I mean, no, he's not my favorite element. I should but his presence really kind of added like an air of sympathy, but also an air of like this is what she's fighting for. You know
And
what I
yet,
mean?
nothing with the kids. Still, we just don't like her son in the show. We don't like the boy. We like calling to the boy off screen. We don't like the boy though. He serves no purpose. We don't have room for him.
Right.
But yeah, this is the big flashback episode of this season.
Yeah. Obviously pretty highly relatable is anyone who's gone through employment stuff like I am currently going through. Hello. So yeah, I definitely think that this is a just a really good character piece. The first half is genuinely heartbreaking, and I love how the second half is basically all set in the restaurant and is just a great kind of kind of build up with that John Barenthal performance. It's almost kind of like they're doing a dance of like, all right, like when is he gonna ask her to work for him? You know what I mean? I like that kind of tension.
Also, it's him before the beard.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's a very relevant episode because right now it's not just my associate here. The job market is killer and it's demoralizing.
Yeah, it really is.
So I think we very well represented that, wouldn't you say?
I would say so, especially like stuff like it literally doesn't matter that you have a good attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It almost hurts you somehow. Somehow it almost hurts you to have a good attitude in this fucking don't even get me started.
Okay, well, I'm just saying we had like the one guy like at the clothing store, he's very much like, the position's been filled, It's like, is there anything else I can help you with though? Yeah, that guy.
Can I just say people like that are exactly why the job hunt is so hard for me, because I like very, very actively do not want to be the person to take somebody out of their day. You know what I mean? And like bother them. Do you have that too? Do you struggle with that?
Well, maybe not exactly like that, but I've had something similar. It's similar though, but just not exactly that. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah. So let's see. Again, David Zayas wonderful as the loving husband. Ever the charm factory, David Zayas, and him being a doorman, which I really like. He's very
I
humble,
love
very
that for
salty.
him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which again is an
Technically a
occupation.
respectable position, but still a position that can kind of be looked down on in some respects.
I mean, it's a job ultimately that you can easily be looked down upon because you could always look at it like a self checkout kind of thing, where it's like, well, people can just open their own doors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where really it's going to ultimately be like a doorman / security position, if anything, if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if it's just doorman, it's like he's the kindly man who opens the door, which sadly seems to be a very dispensable position.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so a lot of failed applications. Just there's like, hey, like you don't have. She has like this paper resume. She's no college degree, but she has boatloads and years and decades of experience. Which doesn't amount to a hill of beans, sadly. Which that to me is always the most BS thing with anything. That's the thing always. That's the thing.
Oh, I feel that. Hardcore. Yeah. And also just the whole logical fallacy, and I still think of it as a fallacy of like, okay, so you need prior experience in this field. Well, like for example, Dragon, I when I was in college, I always wanted to work at a bookstore, right? And there were like 3 prominent bookstores in my area, and all 3 of them required you to have prior bookstore experience.
I know. I
Now,
had a similar, yeah.
yeah, now I'm a person where it's like if I were to get that job, I would be very passionate about it. It would be something I'd be very into. So how the hell do you know that I wouldn't be right for it if you don't give me a chance? And that's
Yeah.
and you hear my palatable frustration in my
I
voice
do.
here, and so I feel that same frustration for Tina in this
I
episode.
went for the book position too, Tiki. And it's that
Did
thing
you?
of like they just want. Yeah, I tried it. They want like no, we need someone with book experience. How do you get book experience if you want?
Define book experience. I don't even get that. Yeah. Okay. So you and I are on the same page here. Yeah.
I'm with you. Tiki, I had like a number of doors slammed in my face. I
Right.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Anyway, the point being, you have there's a lot of that going on. Ultimately, like the thing of like the other most annoying thing. Well, honestly, 2 that really stuck out to me. One was the whole thing of like you go there, it's like, hey, you learn it's like a scam job, like one of those things.
Uh-huh.
Basically, she learns that you're gonna have to put in it first, but after that, you'll be making, you'll be a team player. You'll be making the big bucks. Like she just walks out of the
I do
seminar.
like that she just straight up walks out. I do
That's
like
great.
that.
That's great. But then, of course, sadly, one of the other things is like, hey, we forgot to take down the posting. Where it's like, oh, it's like that is just sad. And that's where she just really chews the guy out.
Right. Yeah.
Which is great. Okay, anyway, so then at her low point, she goes to the beef, and she's given a free sandwich by that kind-hearted Richie, and then she's crying into a sandwich, and all the beef employees are very.
Bearpo and Richie just like arguing over how to deal with it.
That's hilarious. That's the first 3. I love the
like it's not even malicious against her at all. It's just like, oh my god, what do we do?
I just love like this is like before Carmi shows up. This is the version of a crisis at the Bear. Just like the whole a woman is very Three Stooges. A woman is crying. What do we do? Just and of course the burden falls to the old Mikey here. So Mikey just walks up. He's his charm factory with the napkins. He's holding the napkins. Which, by the way, I do love all the episode titles. I want to say that
they're nice.
Yeah. Anyway, so first of all, again, just Secret Weapon Charm Factory here is he offers her a job, and he's very anti with the anti sales pitch, saying why he hates this job. Now, what's really wonderful about this is that while all that's charming and fun, it's just really well acted. Is that there's some great like thematic subtext here, where again, Mike. Again, he's glowing about his younger chef, his actual chef brother, with Carney. So that's really nice, but really he's all the negatives he was laying out there. These are the things that are going to lead him to kill himself.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
So that's the thing. It's him putting a positive spin on something on the surface, where again he's crying inside.
So I think it's fair to say this is probably like the scene of the season, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Tina found a job. We like Tina, so that's great. So we move on to the next one.
All right, episode 7, Legacy. What is a legacy?
This episode.
Haven't pulled that one out in a while. All right, sorry.
So let's see. So this one is a lot of hemming and hawing over the Claire apologizing stuff. We have like the opening of, oh, look at them. This is what they could have had. Look at that, Carmi. You
Dragon,
feel bad?
can I just say, I fucking hate openings like that. I really do.
Yeah, it's more mopey, Carmi.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, man.
So
I'm just
overall,
going to say, from here on out, this season just, I mean, episode 8, there's good stuff in it. We'll talk about it. I do think it
look,
goes
8's a
on
good
little
episode.
long.
I don't think there's anything really wrong with 8. Just 8 is overshadowed by like 6. So it's, I don't want to. Anyway,
I think the problem with 8 is that it just goes on too long. Again, I feel like, much like episode 1, it could have been a shorter episode, and instead it's a longer episode.
That's fair. I'll agree with that.
All
anyway, so let's see. So Carm, this is nice. Carm's kind of mentor. Again, this one is very. Here's the thing: like eight's too long, and this one feels kind of too short, or very least thin on plot. Where it's like Carmi mentors Marcus for a bit there in the whole evolving methodologies of the chef, which seems to be a teeing up potentially where season 4 is going to go if it's the ending. You know, the whole family tree and legacy of chefs, the whole episode title. So that's a good scene. And Marcus's legacy that he wants is I did honest work. It was fun to be around, and I'd be an excellent emergency contact. Which sadly he is not in the next episode.
True.
And we saw his last season with the death of his mother, which again Rohit Dar willed into existence. Just the idea that he didn't answer his phone. When we get the death call, he didn't answer it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's where it was needed to be, so it all worked out there. Anyway, so Ibra gets some help for the sandwich window because again we just completely threw Ibra under the bus yet again. All this season we did is we showed him dropping sandwiches.
Yeah, I honestly feel like he is kind of overdue for an episode like the last episode we got. I really do think that he's kind of the last piece of the puzzle where he's been there from the beginning, but they haven't really developed him all that much.
I think the point is he's the last. If we do anything with Ibra, I think what they have to do is it's an episode where it's about him being the dinosaur of the bunch in terms of he's very much steeped in the beef and he's not really he never really adapted to the fine restaurant aspect.
Yeah, for sure. I can see
he's
that.
The guy in the back of the kitchen who really struggles, and we saw him struggling last season. He's struggling with things, and Carmi knows it. I think what we're teeing up potentially is that more than Marcus maybe. Ibra's first on the chopping block if he has to let someone go.
I think that's fair.
The only thing Ibra can do is make the sandwiches, like the classic beef sandwiches.
But the thing is, the sandwiches, as we established, they're like the only thing that's actually turning a profit.
Exactly. So he's used. You're right. So I can't say he's completely expendable, but in terms of what Carmi's, if Carmi's going to dedicate fully to that and axe that out, Ibra would be the first to go, but if he flipped that around, then it's Marcus. So I don't know.
Right.
And it's a cool down episode. It's frankly, it's there's a lot of Sid angst in this episode too, where it's just it's kind of where our ending is. It's
again, the Sid stuff, all of the Sid screen time this season is just kind of repetitively spinning the wheels of the same 2 or 3 plot points.
Yep.
So not really much to say on this one. It ends in a pretty big cliffhanger, but I gotta say though, as far as TV goes, the cliffhanger of oh no, the baby's coming, and next episode's gonna be the pregnancy episode or the delivery episode, I should say. Oh no. Dragon, honestly, that's kind of a trope in TV that I've gotten a little bit sick of.
Okay, so however, say what you will about that, Tiki. We had to transitioning us to the next episode. Mm-hmm. Ice chips. The opening of this episode is masterfully shot. I love everything about this. Is the full Uncut Gems opening, man. This is great.
Sure. I will agree with that. It's definitely
the problem with this episode. It peaks after the opening. Yeah, that's the thing. It peaks after the opening. That's the problem with Ice Chips.
I honestly kind of feel like with Ice Chips, again, I feel like the problem with this episode is that it's 40 minutes long, and I feel like it's actually not really saying all that much beyond just like, well, Jamie Lee Curtis is a hot mess of a mother, but you know what? At the end of the day, she's there for her. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the thesis of the whole episode. And we're just kind of spinning our wheels in that idea for a long time in this episode.
I mean, here's the thing. Aside from the opening of the episode, which again masterfully shot, just the fact that Natalie's in labor, she's in the car, she's driving. No one from the restaurant is picking up. She's completely alone. She tries calling Claire and just keeps getting the bear, which is really funny. It's a very Curb Your Enthusiasm gag almost. So that's great. So I love that we put her in position where, however, again, even in this, it's just again we're bringing Claire into it. Where again, if Claire, it just reminds me, if with one phone call everything could be solved, so we have to come up with a reason that Claire can't be called. It's a good gag, but it just reminds me yet again, if Claire gets called, then we end the plot line, which we should desperately do, but they're not picking up on that.
Right.
But regardless, just the idea that everyone's busy, presumably, even Uncle Jimmy, who's been by her side the most time, presumably because of the money problems. He can't be there because he's dealing with his hemorrhaging money problems. So she has no choice but to call her mother, who we set up has been trying to call her this season after dropping the ball at the end of season 2 by not showing up for the pregnancy reveal. All that's great. And the other thing is that this episode, while yes, thin on material afterwards, the runtime kills it in that regard. Jamie Lee Curtis, I gotta be honest, I think she was really good in this episode. I think she's down for. I think this is an Emmy episode for her. I really do.
Okay, honestly, Dragon, you kind of called it on your memoirs, where it's like, it's a little repetitive. The whole like he. There's so much screen time devoted to that.
Yeah, there is. I don't disagree. There is.
Okay, you want to know where this episode really shines, though, is I really love the brief but very meaningful interactions that her and Pete have.
Yeah.
Towards the end, I really love that. I really like the whole idea of this episode is basically like kind of burying the hatchet, letting bygones be bygones and whatnot. Again, the problem is that it just moves to this. Honestly, for as good of a performance as Jamie Lee Curtis is giving in this episode, and she is giving a great performance. I don't
the writing's not there.
Know if it's Emmy worthy just because it does not top Fishes for me. It really doesn't. But I don't know. I feel like I just feel like this episode is one of the ones where I was checking the runtime the most. Not the worst episode in that regards. We'll get to that episode, but it's up there. I respected what it was trying to do, but I just felt like it lingered on it too much.
I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, I think the standout moments we had is, again, vacuum compared to like the other, just the overall runtime, combined with Fishes. I mean, I think it's proof like Jamie Lee Curtis, she put in the work with this character, and she should get some recognition for it. Just the whole thing of like the mother kind of seeking redemption after not being there for her kid, and the idea of like that scene with about the epidural. Like, it's a scene where the daughter clearly needs her mother, even though the mother has been a basket case and has been the bane of her existence. And just that whole I could use the epidural. It's her being there in that moment. Like, Jamie Lee Curtis did an excellent job. Again, it's a shame the writing and the runtime wasn't there to really fully support that performance, but she did great.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Okay. So 9. Apologies. Like I said, Dragon, do you want a whole episode that's drawing out the most annoying plot point in all 3 seasons so far?
Yeah.
At least it's shorter than episode 10. And not as pretentious.
Has a Paul Rudd standee.
It does.
Yeah. Okay, so again, I'm sick.
I kind of feel like we've just set our piece on this.
Okay.
I honestly kind of feel like we can just like not linger on this one too much.
There's one really good scene we do have to talk about, though, but just the yada yada through the majority, just real quick. Again, sick of wishy-washy Carm and Claire, and the Claire apology stuff. As we've already said, we don't need to dwell on it, but just still sick of that. Jillian Jacobs coming back, as Tiffany, which is nice. Like Adam Eve herself, her and Richie just having a nice little scene at the park. It's cute. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the important scene, though. Okay, the MVP scene of the episode, the one that's worth talking about. Carmen, Uncle Jimmy here, and this is where we have the big reveal that Uncle Jimmy has been he's been on his case, and he basically drops he lays down the law here that the stakes of the season, and basically season 4 is that if this review is bad, he has to pull funding, and they're doomed.
Yeah, so that is a good. It's like the one element of this episode that actually feels like an ultimate episode that's setting up stakes.
And it's a really good scene that delivers this, because right before that, we have this really well-acted scene with Oliver Platt where he's, he's like, he has an excuse, like he's hiding his expensive golf clubs, essentially from his creditors, but he's not telling Carmi that.
Uh-huh.
And he basically, the review is going to be sink or swim, and he then asks, like, the big pivotal question of, like, could I have done more for you and your family? He's just guilt-ridden over Michael and the suicide and the whole. I think the best moment of acting was when he said, like, how do you was basically the whole like what could you have done, and basically the way that Jimmy turns that on to Carm when he basically like Carm's like what more could he have done, and then Carm kind of says that to himself, or like I could have been there, I didn't go to the funeral and everything, all that sort of stuff. Just like it's a nice little reversal of like the same line between two actors, if that makes any sense. The whole like what could you have done? He answers his own question.
No, I totally feel you. Yeah.
Also, I do love just this hilarious, little kind of funny, like very Cicero line here, where he says, like, how do you think? Yes, I went to some lectures. How do you think I got so effing erudite? And also, there's this really sweet button to it, which again is really nice. And also, again, it's kind of the ghost of Michael in the scene with the whole debting, kind of like owing the debt sort of thing here, where he says, like, so you and I, we're even in terms of the guilt. We're even, yeah, except for the $850K. But we're other than that, we're effing square.
Right.
Like that's a really nice way of putting it. And then we reveal in the car with the computer that he's Jimmy's out of money. Really good. But again, one good scene doesn't quite save the episode, unfortunately.
All right. Is that about it?
No, that's absolutely it. Let's get the last one.
Okay. So my big problem with this episode is, oh my god, the celebrity, not even celebrity chefs, like they're esteemed chefs. They're big names in the field, but it's not like we're getting like like the Food Network people on for this. Dragon, the waxing poetic about what food means to them and service and everything and yada yada. Oh my god. The two parts about this episode that I really do like, and I do kind of like that I feel like they're intentionally kind of like diametrically opposed to each other. Will Poulter, just his very presence, I especially like his dynamic with Sid. They don't get a lot of screen time, but the screen time they do get, I think, is really endearing. And Will Poulter, just in general, he kind of brings this sort of like warm energy to the proceedings. It's really nice. And then on the other side of the room, literally, is Mr. David over here, Joel McHale. And I do think that Carmi's confrontation with him in a vacuum is probably one of the top 5 most compelling moments in the season, maybe even top 3 most compelling. Like, it's very much up there. It's almost kind of like the final boss fight that these 3 seasons have been building to. That in a vacuum is great. What I don't like is, again, I don't like all the waxing poetic about food that we get in this episode. It is just beyond pretentious. Dragon, it gets under my skin so much that for a second season in a row, the cliffhanger regarding Sid's character is like, oh, she's throwing up because of an anxiety attack. It's like, this poor girl has gotten no development this season. All right, I'll throw it to you. I've kind of rambled a little bit.
Okay, so until the cliffhanger aspect, I think it's a solid episode, but I do agree with you. Okay, so I'm not bothered by the fact there are celebrity chefs, but I am bothered with. I am agreement with you. I am bothered that we do spend a lot. It's a lot of chef talk. There's too much chef talk.
Yeah, a little bit.
I like the here's the thing. I like from a structural point of view. I love the idea that we're having the funeral for a fellow chef's restaurant and like a last meal at that restaurant, like Chef Terry's place, which is where Richie fell in love with the hosting thing. So it's a nice closure. So it's an homage to Forks in a sense in terms of we're returning to that location. And the opening of the episode was really great, where we're seeing, and this is like here, the opening of this episode is really great. We're seeing the positive chef influences from Carmen. Like again, feeding into what he and Marcus were talking about with legacy, the idea of like you're taking like the little tricks of the trade you learned from all the great kitchens.
Uh-huh.
So that was nice. So that's what I'm saying. There's a good vibe at the start of this, and then we're it's like the premise of it's a stationary location. We're just gonna go in here for the last meal, which we kind of set up a few episodes back. The bear attends this, and Richie. I think Richie's gonna end up with that hostess. By the way, I think he's gonna end up with just the hostess.
Look, I mean, you asked me this on memoirs, and it's like I probably agree with you. That being said, I just don't really think it's that substantial of a story. They have nice chemistry, but I'm not like hanging. I'm not hanging on the edge of my seat to see if he's going to get together with
No,
her.
I'm not on the edge of my seat. I'm just saying it seems we teed up that he's lonely, and we speak. They were looking at each other, and she was kind of always nice to him. So I think it might be there. I don't know.
Anyway. I
mean,
fair enough. I'm just saying that's not an interesting plot line for Richie to go down.
Anyways, like
here, Richie, here's another love interest for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's a cute idea that we combine the in real life chefs with with our cast of chefs, and we're having them interact. Like for example, Luca kind of geeking out with like the one celebrity chef, and he's at why did I say needles so much? Like that's funny.
Oh my god, that's fucking adorable. Again,
like
Will Poulter just bring in the charm. Wouldn't it be great if Luca went to work at the Bear in season 4?
I'd love if that happens. That's what
I'm saying.
Because
I mean, he is technically out of work now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd love to think. Well, then again, Luca, I think technically was in Copenhagen though. Well, you got to remember.
Did he say he was visiting his sister or something? Like he's in the States for a while, is what I got.
Well, that's the confusing thing because the chefs are not all working at Terry. They're all visiting Terry right now. So I don't know if that means that Luca worked at. I don't think Luca was at Terry's place.
Oh no! Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're right. You're right.
Like I think here's the thing: Luca and Terry and Carm and maybe David were at the same restaurant at one time.
Uh-huh.
And or at the very least, David may have been like one that Carmi went to in New York. I don't know if he was there at the one that that Terry and Luca were at with Carmi. The three of them at least were at the same restaurant at one point in time, and that's how they know each other. And then they went to different places. That's why like Luca's in Copenhagen, and Terry's at her place, which is where because otherwise Richie would have run into Luca. So Luca wasn't anywhere in that episode.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. My bad.
Anyway, the point being, So aside from that, though, when they're all sitting down at the table and then talking about like their successes and failures, again, I can respect what they're doing, but it does go on way too long with you. I agree. Terry makes the nice toast about it's about the people, not the food. That's pretty good. But yeah, so as you said, though, whole episode hinges on Carm's confrontation with Chef David. The guy is a again, the wonderful Joel McHale here. He's playing like this monster with a smile on his face here, a swarmy smile on his face. You want to smack. He's just like that. We learned that this guy.
It's kind of like his performance is like it's a brutal combination of like he's loving how malicious he's being in the moment, and yet he's played like he almost does not give a shit. You know what I mean?
Well, this guy
like those two like extremes of the performance.
Much like Zahir from Legend of Korra, this guy is basically like he's the chef if he unearthed all the earthly ties.
Right.
And that's the thing, though. He's basically it's the idea he chalks it all up. So the big, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place here.
Oh, you're good.
With Claire. Okay, the one positive thing I can say with Claire, I don't think pays off, which, by the way, we also forgot to mention this from apologies. We actually saw Claire The present day and the facts going to the apology, which was a really nice scene, I thought. Them visiting Claire and like them trying to speak on Carmen's behalf, but it does highlight the big flaw of like, Carmen, just pick up a phone, man. Even the facts have like gone down here and just doing the work for you. Just
which by the way, that's I feel like that was almost a bridge too far into the facts just being comic relief. I don't know. I didn't vibe with that, but maybe it's just because I don't vibe with the Claire stuff.
I think it's mostly the Claire stuff. I thought it was a nice gesture, but yeah. Anyway, regardless, my point being, with the whole apology thing, the whole season's been hinged on, Carmy, whether Carmy's going to apologize now, which again, which is the wrong approach to take, with just having that story as a story period. However, a big missed opportunity with her payoff here. Carmy has been dodging an apology, and he sees an opportunity where he is seeking an apology. Now, I think what we're inching towards here is that Carmy's been living in fear of this apology, where he's now seeing Claire's side of it, or his worst nightmare of the apology fulfilled in this moment. So I like the idea of paying off an apology story with Carmy. I just wish we didn't drag it out as long or as pointlessly as we did with Claire up to that point. See, basically, so the whole confrontation he has here is, Chef David basically has drill instructor logic where, I treated you like crap gleefully because it got you to this. You're now a great chef. I don't really remember who you are. I don't think about you at all. But yeah, you're welcome. He gives him a "you're welcome" and not an "I'm sorry" when he's in pursuit of an "I'm sorry." And I think I think for our story going forward, this gut checks Carmy. This is like the big, it hits him like a brick wall that, again, very obvious water is wet kind of lesson in retrospect, that I should say I'm sorry to Claire.
No!
Get out. But that's basically like, man, I felt really bad. I should say I'm sorry instead of you're welcome.
Right.
Like, I unburden you from a terrible relationship, Claire. You're welcome. Instead, he should say, Claire, I'm sorry for saying those bad things in the freezer.
Oh man.
But I gotta admit, Tiki, this scene really hit me though. This confrontation with this guy, because I identified with Carm here. I have an enemy. This is like one of those things where you wonder what would happen if you're in the same room as that enemy, and this is kind of what I'd imagine might happen. Where I just unload on the guy. If I don't kill the guy first, I would unload on the guy like this, and then
he just does not give a shit.
I know for a fact he won't care. I know for a fact this guy would just with a smile. I never thought about you at all in all that time. Would just laugh it off and smile. And just not care remotely.
Very real world, very realistic. I will say that
exactly.
Much.
Yep.
So I feel like after this, we don't really need to do all that much more with Joel McHale's presence in the show.
No,
and
I
feel
don't
like again, like I kind of laid out in season 4, the struggle is very much going to be Carmy trying to avoid turning into that.
I think there's only one scene we need, one flashback scene we need with the Joel McHale ship, just one. We just need to see like the literal mental breakdown with him there. That's
I can see that. Yeah.
That is the only scene we need with him. Otherwise, it's like, unless there's like that, maybe like a little chef's kiss moment, where he's says, "You did good, Carm. Chef's kiss. We're done here." Those are the only two things I can think of doing with that character.
So basically, the polar opposite moments.
Oh god, what if they made it really? Yeah, exactly. The polar opposite must be something at his worst, and then in the past, at his worst, and then okay, he's gonna give him a tip of the hat, which in this case be a chef's kiss. Imagine the twisted version of the chef's kiss, just to make it like, okay, I'm gonna give you a compliment, you're gonna hate it. He just walks up to him and does like the French mouth on kiss, and it's like, you know what I call that, Carmy? Chef's kiss. You're welcome. And he walks out.
All right, and what do you think of? Were you as annoyed as me with the lack of resolution on the Sid stuff?
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled with it. I was like, Sid, make a decision. All right, come on.
I mean, the fact that we we spend the first half of the season where she's like, oh, I don't know. Should I look at the contract? I don't really want to look at the contract.
Mm.
And then we add another thing that she's indecisive about. Like, honestly, Dragon, the whole theme of this season is indecisiveness, which, frankly, as a TV viewer, is not that compelling of a topic.
Not for 10 episodes.
Yeah.
You want to be indecisive? I'll give you. Well, actually, okay. There's only one time you and I have both seen recently where indecisiveness is actually made for a good season.
Okay.
Monsters at Work.
Yeah. No, actually, it's, oh my God. How
now
did
he made
Monsters at Work? Okay, we have to take a moment to just appreciate this. How the fuck did Monsters at Work do better at this than The Bear? Because I fully agree with you, but how the fuck did that happen?
To be fair, it took them like 8 episodes. They had 8 episodes of indecisiveness, but even then, they count like the 9th episode.
It was
like
a complete 8 episodes, and every episode I feel like they actually added something to the conflict.
Yep, they did.
All right, well, I feel like we've pretty much spun our wheels enough on this, right?
Yeah, well, again, so the big cliffhanger itself, though, so the review finally comes in. We see like a lot of up close like this. So I feel like his reaction is like, F this, man. Like, oh man, this is bad. It feels like F me. That feels like it wasn't a good review. But then again, that could be the perfectionist incarnate.
I feel like it was a mixed review, Dragon. I truly feel like it was a mixed review that praises him personally, but brings down the atmosphere and the staff, which we did see was an issue.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction. Like, I think nobody's going to have any bad words to say about the actual food, but it's going to be the actual experience and service quality, in spite of Richie doing the best that he goddamn can.
Okay, here's a wild pitch. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The food critic, if we reveal who the critic was.
Yeah.
Jon Favreau.
Oh my! Okay, that would be amazing. I would fucking love that.
And now he's crushing. He's crushing the chocolate love souffle thing, and flat space. Well, Oliver, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you
go. All right. So, any final thoughts on the season?
Again, not as clean cut as the first 2 seasons. It has some really good moments in it, but not enough to really measure up. But again, we'll see if I'm hopeful they're going to be able to tie it all up in hopefully the last season coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pretty much echo your sentiments. I mean, my big issue with the season, like, we did have some good moments, but just the repetitiveness and the fact that almost nothing besides the Joel McHale character and the backstory there, almost nothing actually moves forward. And that is a big problem. So, yeah, we'll see. And at this point, I do genuinely hope that you're right about season 4 being the final season, because I really don't think this show can afford another season where it's just spinning its wheels like this. I really think the prestige would just drop after that. Yep. All right. Well, big thanks to Little Blue and Kokios for joining us in the comments, kind of, even though they haven't really watched the show. But like I said, guys, season Dragon Fishes is what, episode 6, right?
Yeah, it's 6.
Okay, so season 2, episode 6. Seriously, watch that. We're going to do a podcast on it tomorrow for Christmas in July. Highly recommend. I'd actually really appreciate it if some of y'all could actually, be engaged in the conversation for that. You all don't need to watch anything that we cover, and I'm glad that you guys came to comment to begin with. But I'm just saying, if you want to keep up with the conversation, just watch the one episode. And again, it's literally like the backstory for the whole rest of the show. So I really feel like you don't have to watch the rest of the show to enjoy the episode in its own right. All right. That'll be it for us tonight, everyone. Have a good night. See y'all later. Tomorrow, Little Blue. Tomorrow, yes. Starting with The Bear, Season 2, Episode 6, Fishes. That will be coming tomorrow night. So, yeah, look forward to that. All right. Have a good night, everyone. See y'all later.